It was pretty fun at first, being able to watch Piper on the puppy cam whilst we were out. But it stopped being fun when I realised it wasn't just the dog Tom was keeping tabs on.
The camera was for the dog, and the dog alone. The fact is, Belle could have just as easily caught me having a private conversation. Maybe she did.
I even thought he had access to my laptop, after he pretty much threatened that private photos on there, photos that he had taken, could easily fall into the wrong hands.
I don't recall making any such threat. Now, if I did mention the photos, it would have been for Belle's own protection. I know I was always on at her about installing security updates on her laptop, but again, not for my benefit.
So when I found those tiny cameras in the house, I felt sick. Because I didn't know how long they'd been up there, or how many more there were. And I finally thought I was free of him, but he could never let me go.
It was only ever about keeping Belle safe. I was her husband, and I realize it might sound a little old-fashioned, but, well, I saw that as my responsibility. And it was a responsibility I took seriously.
Still can't wrap my head around all those cameras he had. Just watching on.
I don't know about any of you, but a couple of years ago, we got one of those video doorbells, you know, the ones that connect to your phone. So I checked mine in the break, just to make sure my husband had walked the dog. But if I'm honest, they can be a bit addictive, that little hit of power that you get. But when does it stop being something that is a little bit embarrassing to admit and becomes something else entirely? I'm not exactly sure where that point is, but I think we all recognize when a line has been crossed. And without a doubt, Tom crossed it.
I think that maybe we should take a little break.
You agree, don't you?
Maybe. No, I don't know.
That's something.
Yeah, all right. All the business with all the cameras and the tablet computer thingy, lying to the police saying he'd lost it, smashing it up. I'll admit, it's very hard to come up with an innocent explanation.
Right. So let's all remember exactly what we were asked to consider when we left that courtroom.
Do we have a candidate for foreman of the jury?
We do, Your Honor.
Very good. You may sit. Well, no doubt it's been a long day. But, having heard the case for the prosecution and the defense, and all the relevant points of law upon which your deliberations must rest, once again, may I remind you that in a case such as this, the prosecution has no choice but to rely on a good deal of circumstantial evidence. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I must send you away to consider your verdict on the charges brought against the defendant, Thomas King. Thank you.
So, another show of hands. I think you all know the drill. On the charge.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but before we do you mind if I say something?
Of course.
Thank you. When my daughter was a little girl, I remember her running in and excitedly informing us that she was getting married to Paul, the little boy from next door. Years later, when she was grown up and getting married for real, we reminded her of that day. I remember her laughing because my wife kept updating her on everything that Paul was doing, especially when he got into medical school. To be honest, we had mixed feelings about the man she was about to marry. He had children from a previous relationship, and he was always hopping from one business venture to another. As for Paul, the little boy from next door, he was now a consultant hematologist with a wife and 3 lovely children of his own. Anyway, I'm very happy to tell you that my daughter and her husband recently celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. As for the little boy she married in our back garden all those years ago, he's now in prison, serving a life sentence for stabbing and killing the mother of his children. Now, I don't know what happened. I don't think we ever will. She never She never got the chance to tell her story. Or if she did, no one listened. We only met her a couple of times. The first time, she was pregnant with her first child. Everyone said that she was the sort of person, you know, who glowed. She lit up a room. But that day, she had this look in her eyes that we just couldn't explain. Then, years later, we bumped into them again. She still had that same look in her eyes. But this time, there was something else. It was like that light that everyone had seen before had just gone, disappeared. Sorry, if only we'd listened.
You mustn't blame yourself.
I don't. I blame the man who murdered her. I mean, I can't deny it still haunts me. So when I saw that same look in Belle's eyes in the court, I can only imagine how it could have ended. How it could still end if we let him off. Now, Belle has had the chance to tell her story. Let's make sure we've listened.
Any news?
Sorry.
You're taking the time. Is that a good thing?
Can't really say.
Please be advised that Court 3 will shortly be back in session for the Crown versus King. All relevant personnel, please now make your way back to Court 3.
Suspect.
Which means the jury's made its decision.
Hey, we can stay here if you don't want to.
No. It's time. I'm ready.
Has the jury reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
We have, Your Honour.
In respect of count 1, an indictment of the offence of assault, do you find the defendant Thomas King guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In respect of count 2, the offence of controlling and coercive behaviour, do you find the defendant Thomas King guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Is that the verdict of you all?
Yes.
You may sit. Thomas King, the evidence the court has heard today places you in the highest category of culpability for your criminal actions and behaviour, though you have no prior convictions and are of good standing professionally. It is recognised that one of the factors allowing an abuser to continue unnoticed is the ability of the perpetrator to have both a public and a private face. Mr. King, your campaign of abuse against your wife went on even beyond the end of your functioning relationship. In fact, it increased in severity. I believe you have demonstrated no remorse for your actions, and you have no inclination to change your ways. Therefore, I impose a custodial sentence of 3 years. You may take him down.
You told the truth, and you were believed. That is everything. And by the way, you never did actually say where you got to yesterday.
I went to a support group.
Everyone, this is Belle. Hi, Belle. Hi, Belle.
I sat and I listened to all these brave women. Old, young, tough, clever, posh, skin, you name it. And they all had their own story.
It made me think I should be grateful. We were women.
My kids had started to see it all. They were young, but they'd get really upset seeing me get hurt. I knew I had to get out. For them.
Yeah, I felt suffocated by him. Because he wanted to know everything. Where I was going, what I was doing. It became too much.
I'm seeing a counsellor for some support, which is helping, but I know it'll take time. I can't even think about another relationship.
And then he started threatening to hurt himself if I didn't. Saying it would be my fault if he did kill himself. My support worker helped me realise, though, that that is a common tactic that abusers use, to blackmail people into resuming relationships.
He was never interested in the kids. It was just a game. A game to make me worry that he was going to get custody.
Everybody thought he was great. And that I was the problem. It stopped me from asking for any help.
He still kept sending me messages, and to all my friends. They'd get fed up and then ask me to tell him to stop. But I didn't want to speak to him. They didn't get it. And a few friends fell out with me because of him.
I'm settled and safe now, but that doesn't stop the nightmares and the panic attacks. It'll take time before I trust anybody again. He did that.
I am proud of myself for walking away. I've built a life now that's filled with happiness and peace.
I've finally realised everything that I went through with Tom, it wasn't my fault. I wasn't broken. It was him. These women, their stories, that is what gave me the strength to stand up in court today, to tell my story and to be believed, and to show there are people out there and they will listen.